She with you?
I thought she was with you.
I like Batman versus Superman? What the fuck is happening to me?
What the hell is happening?
Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice was directed by Zack Snyder and stars Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, Amy Adams, Jesse Eisenberg, many other people. And this film takes place after the events of Man of Steel, as we see Bruce Wayne, his hatred for Superman after the attack on Metropolis begin to grow and to fester. Superman having to deal with the world and his place in it, whether he belongs or whether he doesn't, and his kind of like godlike status amongst the people. Lex Luthor having to deal with all of that and his not really liking of Superman, and other things happening in this movie. Wonder Woman is there. Many other things are there. This movie does a lot, but it mostly does it well. What? So I think I need to preface this. First, this is the Ultimate Edition that I'm reviewing, the 3-hour cut, not the theatrical version. Like I said, my Man of Steel review, anytime I talk about Batman vs. Superman, it is the Ultimate Edition, never the theatrical cut. I just need to rephrase that again for everyone to know. So when this came out about 5 years ago, and I saw it in theaters, I was very, very excited for it. I loved the idea of Batman versus fighting Superman. I seen Dark Knight Returns. I loved the fight in that. I thought that was awesome. I thought that was epic. And while I didn't like Man of Steel at the time, I thought that the action that was really good. So like the action in this could be good. I was excited to see what Ben Affleck was going to be like as Batman. There's a lot of things that I was really excited and really pumped up for, and if you've seen the theatrical cut, you know what an incoherent mess that movie is. That version cut out 30 minutes of the film, and that 30 minutes was kind of essential for the story to make sense. Cutting out things that make the story make sense makes the story not make sense. It makes the film much worse. Like I haven't watched them back to back in a while, but I'm willing to bet that it's even worse now after watching it again. Like, it's not good. And when that came out, I was really pissed off at the movie for a lot of different reasons, and I'll get into those reasons why in a moment. Also, spoiler filled, I'm going to be talking about the entirety of the movie. If you somehow haven't seen Batman vs. Superman, then just go watch something else. I don't know. Just anything but this. And then come back to this. So, when they killed Superman, and I saw that, I was very pissed off. Number one, because it was the second movie in the cinematic universe, and killing off Superman in the second movie when you barely built up his character in the first place, I thought that was a really stupid move, especially when I knew that they were just going to bring him back in the next one. So that made me mad. Seeing Batman killed at that time also really made me mad. There's a lot of things that the movie did at the time that really just pissed me off in the wrong way. And then as the years went on, it just kind of like stayed that way, but eventually just turned to dislike, and eventually it turned into indifference. And I think the internet over the years just like kind of like just being the shit out of this movie, like with all the Martha jokes and everything, and just so many other things, and especially like Civil War coming out 2 months after and doing it a lot better, did not help the case for Batman vs. Superman at all. And so yeah, that just kind of like stayed that way for me for a long time. And we cut to 5 years later now. This is the first time that I have watched the movie since I saw it in theaters with an open and clear mind, to trying to see it for whatever it is that it was trying to do, to see with a fresh new perspective that I had not before. And I've seen this multiple times over the years, but it never clicked with me. And I think it was just because I let that hatred that was just on the internet for so long just keep like boiling in my mind. But now, just going in with like an open mind, with a critical mind as well, just to see it for what it is, to see if I was missing anything, to see if it actually was a good movie, I was surprised. 'Cause it's good. It's not perfect. It still has its flaws, but it's good. It's better than Man of Steel. What's happening to me? So I'm going to get into some of the positives. Love the casting in this. Ben Affleck is fantastic as Batman, both as Batman and as Bruce Wayne. Batman actually gets the fight, and it's awesome. And the kind of messes with his character in the film, but I'll get into that later. But it's awesome nonetheless. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman was awesome in this, continued to prove to be awesome in later films. Henry Cavill as Superman actually gets more to do in this, and like actually has more character. It's still not perfect, and he's still not, I wouldn't say well written, but there is actually more to him and actual growth and choices that he makes this time on his own, rather than people just saying you're gonna save the world but also don't save the world and I'm gonna just destroy Krypton without a second thought. But here there's actual thoughts and decisions that happen. It's weird. They tried making him a character. It's cool. The story and themes I thought were really interesting and really different. This kind of idea of exploring, like, should a Superman exist? And it essentially, like, he to the world is the closest thing that we will get to a god in a sense. And so kind of like exploring those ramifications of like, should he exist? And if he should, like, how does he judge who to save and who to not save? And like other ideas like this. And it actually builds into Superman's character and also Batman's character well, and their motivations for hating one another. And I also love the hypocrisy between Batman and Superman in their ideologies, because Batman sees Superman as this ultimate threat that could destroy the world in a blink of an eye if he wants to, but Superman sees Batman as this figure that just attacks whoever he wants. He is judge, jury, and executioner, and so this kind of motivation between the two of them actually is built up well. And at the center of it is Lex Luthor, and we've been wrong about Lex this entire time. Now, I know that there's fans out there that have, like, been singing his praises, but overall, most people have been hating on Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor, including myself over the years, just because he was nothing like at all what we know Lex to be. His motivations were, when we first saw it, vague at best, and his plan just kind of seemed non-existent or weird or whatever because of the theatrical cut. But going into this and looking at it with a fresh mind, his motivations are actually interesting and well established, and his plan is actually easy to follow and makes sense, not just for like how certain things interact, but how he gets Batman and Superman to fight each other and why he does it. It's well done. Why do we keep hating on him? Why do we keep hating on his character and his plan? It's not hard to see. And like, this is coming from someone that hated it at first. Like, clear your minds, people. Think critically. Look at it with an open mind. Like, it's not difficult to do. And I also like how different Jesse Eisenberg's version of Lex Luthor was. They established that he is the son of a Lex Luthor, but this is supposed to be like the Lex Luthor that we all know and I guess love. But the way that he's written, the way that he's performed is very much a kind of person that is very intelligent and very smart, but also there is that bit of him that is a bit crazy and a bit psychotic depending on how you perceive him. And also, we don't get like flashbacks to his past or a whole lot of descriptions, but there are enough clues given to us that he had an abusive father and a past with religion that obviously did not pan out well for him. So it causes his motivation and hatred for Superman to actually like matter and make sense and is good. And it makes sense for his character to act the way that he does, to just kind of be like all hyper and like kind of hysterical. Like it shows that he's kind of a broken person, but he's trying to be normal. It's kind of hard to describe, but it's kind of like, if you think about like Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, it's kind of like that, but more he has control over himself, I guess, if that makes sense. He's not trying to be Joker. He is trying to be a different version of Lex that we haven't seen before, but is one that is still worth talking about. I will say, though, that for like Superman's character, I still think that he is not written perfectly this time, but he is written better. I think one of the biggest problems with him, like in the first, is his lack of like personality, if that makes sense. Like if you look at the original like Superman film, like Christopher Reeve gave both Clark and Superman very clear and very distinct personalities from one another. Like it is very clear to establish like what these versions of himself are. But both in Man of Steel and in this, that doesn't really exist. And I think I don't know if that's more due to the writing or to Snyder's direction, but he still feels very bland. Not like the most exciting of people to watch. So at the end, like when he sacrifices himself, it is justified in the film's context, but the emotion behind it isn't there, because both in Man of Steel and in this, we don't get emotionally attached to him because he's more just kind of he's more just kind of like a figure rather than a character, if that makes sense. I think if he was better written in Man of Steel and in BVS, and he is written better in BVS, but with more personality and love put into him, then his sacrifice at the end actually would have mattered and actually would have made us feel something. In context to the story, his sacrifice at the end does work and does make sense, but the emotion behind it isn't there, if that makes sense. This has irked me from day one, and even now I still don't like it. The fight between Batman and Superman. Now, while I can clearly see the motivations now and how it all works and is in place and makes sense, there are problems with it. I think the first thing to talk about is the fight is so lackluster and boring. For the title fight of the movie, it's so boring to watch. Like, I'm fine with Batman, like, using kryptonite to weaken Superman so he has a fighting chance. But if you look at the animated Dark Knight Returns movie, that fight between Batman and Superman is what this should have been. It's weird. Like, this doesn't feel like a Snyder fight at all. Like, Man of Steel, 300, like, several other, even Sucker Punch. I hate Sucker Punch, but the fights in that are better than the fight of Batman and Superman. Like, Batman throws Superman at some things, Superman throws Batman at some things, they get punched a few times, and then that's it. Like, it's a really boring and a really short fight. Like, it needed to be bigger, it needed to be more epic for all this build-up to this, and it just ends so just in a wimpish kind of way. Like, the fight at the end between Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Doomsday is more epic than the title fight of the movie. It's weird. It's irked me from day one, and it still irks me now. If you want a really cool Batman and Superman fight, watch The Dark Knight Returns. You'll get a really cool Batman and Superman fight. And the other problem I have with the fight is the motivation for the fight itself. Now, the motivations between Batman and Superman are well built up as to why they don't like each other and why they would, in a sense, fight each other. And Lex getting Superman to fight Batman makes sense with what he does and how his plan works. But Superman does not do enough to try to get Batman's help during the fight. Because he says right before the fight starts that I have to go to Gotham to ask him to help me or he has to die. And during the fight, he says a few lines before it starts, and then that's kind of it until the infamous Martha scene comes in, and I'll talk about that. But he doesn't do enough during the fight, and I get that, like, characters aren't supposed to be written perfectly, and that's fine. But show him more trying to gain control of the situation, to knock some sense into Bruce and say, dude, listen to me, my mom's gonna die. Just anything, just him trying to get some words in to show that he is trying to more talk to him rather than trying to kill him. But that's not what we get. And I think the fight is lesser for that. Like, even in Civil War, and I'm trying to compare it as little as I can to Civil War, but the final fight between Tony, Cap, and Bucky, like, Cap tries to stop Tony from killing Bucky and still, like, tries to use his words at certain points, but eventually he knows that knocking the shit out of him is the only way. But here, that's not what happens. I think that if there was, like, just some lines thrown in here and there, I think it would have made it stronger. Now, the infamous Martha scene. This is a scene that has been mocked so much since it came out. And when I was in theater, I was dumbfounded. I thought it was so goddamn stupid that, because I perceived it more as the name rather than, like, the actual idea behind it. And I just thought it was fucking hilarious in all the wrong ways. And I do have to say, Teen Titans Go to the Movies, they're making fun of that scene is really funny. I love that.
What's your mother's name? Martha. My mommy's name is Martha, too. Wait, what's your father's name?
Jonathan?
Mine's Thomas.
But now, with a clear mind, I don't hate it, but I don't love it. And I think it really does have to do with the lines themselves. I completely understand the idea behind it. It makes perfect sense to me. But I think the problem is the lines themselves. Because he talks about saving Martha, you have to stop him, and then Batman starts saying, why did you say that name? It doesn't really work well. I think that if you cut out the actual Martha part and just change up some of the lines, and that you could still flash back to Batman's parents' death, but like leave out the whole Martha line, I think that it would have impacted him more, because he sees that he's becoming like, what he sought to after to not become anymore, and realizes that Superman is a man himself, and has loved ones himself. And I think that the idea is presented clearly, but the execution could have been stronger. It's fun making fun of it because I think the delivery is off, but like I completely understand the intention behind it, but it doesn't have the emotional impact that's supposed to have, mainly because of the line delivery itself. I understand it, but I don't love it. This part is frustrating to me. This is probably one of the best versions of Batman that we've gotten to see on screen, especially in terms of like actual like fighting style, and like it's awesome to see, but it kind of ruins Batman's character that has been set up, because this film is also exploring Batman and showing that like, after Robin's death, and that he's been kind of like going like really far, showing to like beating the shit out of people, branding people, like like people that get branded like die in prison, and he knows this, but he keeps doing it. It's showing that he's really starting to teeter towards like that brand of criminal that he has been sworn to like, not become and to stop. And I think that's a cool and a really interesting idea of exploring Batman's character, but every single fight of Batman's, it is shown to be awesome. It is shown to be epic. It is shown to be badass. It's not shown to be like, god damn, this man like is kind of a psycho. Like he is going too far. Like people are almost dying, and people die. People die a lot. People die a lot. People get maimed a lot. Like on their own, like without the film attached, these scenes are like awesome. And I'm not completely against Batman killing people, but here it's establishing that he's going too far and that he will almost kill people, but he does several times. Many times he kills people in this, so it kind of ruins like what has been established. And like especially after the Batman and Superman fight, like he shouldn't be doing this level of violence anymore, because that was supposed to be the moment of when he realizes, oh shit, I'm turning into the thing that I swore never to become. And then the warehouse fight right after that, he blows some fuckers up. He blows a couple of people up. Like, people are dead in that fight. Many people die in that fight. So it kind of ruins it. It's awesome to see on its own, but it kind of ruins the exploration that they were doing with his character. And that hurts me. Now, the third act of this movie with Doomsday, I hated it. Like, I hated most of it when I first saw it. And now it's still a mixed bag. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I get the intention behind it, but I don't really know how to explain it. It works fine, but it still doesn't work entirely for me. I get the idea behind it, and Superman's sacrifice does actually work now to me, but I don't really know what it is about it. It just doesn't feel right. And I think it's because the Batman and Superman fight was the end of Act 2, when it should have been the end of the film, but also because we need to set up Justice League, we need to have the Doomsday ending. So I don't know. I'm more indifferent towards it. If you like it, that's fine. If you don't, I completely understand that too. It's just not for me. Now, the only things I think really like stop the film dead in its tracks and is purely there just to set up Justice League are the nightmare scenes, and then the laptop scene of showing like, the other members of the Justice League. They just kind of stopped the film dead in its tracks. You could have gotten away with the nightmare scene of showing like this was just a dream, and Bruce is imagining like the worst that could happen, like if Superman like does become like the evil tyrant that he thinks that he could become. That could have worked. But then it's shown that it is a vision from Flash teleporting back to the past, showing like, like shit's about to go down. You need to get us together, and like all this Superman, you were right about him. Lois is the key. Like all this stuff is just like, you had a chance of making it work, but then it didn't. That kind of sucks. And then right before the Batman and Superman fight, Wonder Woman looks at a laptop with the other members of Justice League, and it's just like, this is not necessary. You could cut this out and we wouldn't miss anything. Like, you could have just introduced the Justice League in the next movie, because like there's a line at the end where Bruce says like we need to like assemble like other people like us because I fear that there's an attack coming. Like that's a good setup, and that Justice League could explore like who these other people are. But no, we have to establish who they are in this movie, and it stops the film dead in its tracks. It's not a long moment, but I needed to talk about it because it really does stop the film dead in its tracks. I was expecting, going back watching this, to hate it or just to dislike it or feel indifferent about it, but it's good. Batman vs Superman is actually a good film, and I think just because of like the absolute like beating that this movie kept getting on the internet over the years, it kind of like embedded in my mind that it was a bad movie. But like now with like clear thinking, it really isn't. It's not perfect. It still definitely has its problems, but I see now that it is a good movie, and it does actually make me a bit excited for the Snyder Cut of Justice League. I'm still going to keep my expectations a bit low, but I'm way more excited than I was before. It's a weird time we're living in right now. Like, I like Batman vs Superman now? What's happening to me? I was not expecting to like this, but I do? I like it more than Man of Steel? What's happening, man? I'm going to give Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice a 7 out of 10. It's a good movie. I really was not expecting to like it, but I did. Like, if you haven't seen it in a while, watch the Ultimate Cut. If you are someone that has, like, been shitting on this movie for years and has hated it, go back, rewatch it with an open mind. Like, an actual open, critical mind, and see, like, the stuff that it did good. And, it, like, if you like it, then good for you. I'm glad that you like it. But, yeah, I've been turned. Not by, like, the fandom of the internet, but, like, by my own self. Like, it's a weird time we're living in, bro. So that was my actual review instead of tangent of Batman vs Superman. What did you think? Did you agree with my thoughts? Did you not? Do you still hate the movie? Do you love the movie? Let me know down in the comments below. I was very surprised by this, and I am a bit more excited now for the Snyder Cut. But before that, we need to talk about the theatrical cut of Justice League. That one's gonna hurt.